Welcome back, one and all, to Cleats first, Logic second. After a chunk of time off, we're finally back at you with content. Today, joining us to preview the Europa League Final between Manchester United and Villarreal, making his Cleats first, Logic second debut, our good friend Alex, better known on the YouTube sphere as Alxton. Alex, thanks so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. I'm excited to make my debut. It's a one episode contract, maybe more to come down the road, hopefully. We'll see how that goes. If Chelsea don't win this Champions League final, I might not show my face on here ever again.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. We'll focus on Europa League today. Then
Yep.
Friday, we're going to move over to Champions League. But why don't we just jump straight into this, Alex, and let's look
Yes.
ahead to this matchup taking place in Poland this coming Wednesday versus or between Villarreal and Manchester United. A really interesting matchup here, Alex.
Yeah, honestly, it's I don't think I had Villarreal being in the Europa League final. Honestly, I thought it was gonna be Arsenal and Manchester United, but it looks like Arsenal didn't make it through because of Villarreal, and it's kind of ironic enough how, we had their previous manager get the job done over them. So honestly, for me, looking at where Villarreal finished in La Liga, it's gonna be a battle between the two. Mostly one just playing for pride, being in the Europa League final for the first time, and Manchester United just there to show what they're gonna be producing for next year.
Well, exactly. And looking at that, like you said, while Villarreal may have slipped out of European spots to seventh in their La Liga final standing, that should be said though. I believe that that is still qualified for Europa Conference League.
Right.
That will all be, straightened out shortly. But like you said, this is the first major cup in the club's history. But something that they have to their advantage is they have one of the most prolific Europa League winning managers in Unai Emery, someone who's been able to get it done with Spanish clubs before. But
Right.
like you said, it's not necessarily the most expected finalist to see. They definitely didn't have the easiest path to the final, especially with who they came up against in the semifinal and what was expected of that team. I'm not happy about it. I don't want to talk about it, but I'm not representing Arsenal today. So, I'll rep the colors of the. We know that this will change on Sunday, but of the
Yeah.
standing European champions in Bayern Munich. Why don't we look at the path that they took, Alex? So they started the season off in Europa League, running through the group stage, finishing top of the group. No problem there.
Yeah. And honestly, it sounds like, to be fair, they had a pretty tough Europa League, round of 32. Salzburg, I honestly think they're a great team, coming from Austria, I believe, right? So they're constantly winning their division for the most part. I'm pretty sure, right? They won the championship last year. Um, so to win 2-1 over that, I thought they did really well. And then Dynamo Kiev is honestly a tough team to play. I know Chelsea played against them before, had a tough time, and they are established in the fact that they were able to overcome in the round of 16 4-0 win. That says a lot about the strength and the depth in the squad.
Yeah, not a bad showing there, like you said. A good side in Kiev, but Villarreal were able to run through them. Now,
Yeah.
an interesting matchup in the quarterfinals. Dynamo Zagreb coming off a big victory against Tottenham in the round of 16, that massive comeback, that massive upset.
Right.
Both teams coming into that heated. Both of those, unexpected powerhouses that could have potentially went far. They were able to make quick work of them over the two legs with a 3-1 victory. And then comes the big storyline and the big upset. Being able to secure that 2-1 victory over Arsenal over the two legs.
Right. Yeah, that's honestly, I think that was the most impressive victory. Um, Going into it, I thought Arsenal, with their quality, with their depth, with their squad, even though they're having a tough season in the Premier League this year, I still thought that, you know what, they'll get the job done. That was my initial, thoughts going into that semis. But they just kept going and proving everyone wrong. And look, they're in the final, and I think they deserve to be in the final after a win over Arsenal. But yeah, it was an impressive result. I didn't expect it, to be honest.
No, exactly. Like you said, to be able to go at home, pick up that 2-1 victory, and then go on the road to Arsenal. And all they needed to do was keep that clean sheet. If
Right.
Arsenal scored one goal and the game would have ended 2-2 on aggregate, Arsenal would have went through. And yes, Arsenal didn't do everything to challenge them completely. It was definitely a disappointing performance. But at the end of the day, credit where credit is due, Villarreal got through that game and earned their rightful spot in the final of the Europa League.
Now I got a question. If we're looking at the managers here, what do you think Arsenal, the board of Arsenal's thinking in this situation? Was it right to give the sack to Unai Emery, or did they do a good job with hiring Arteta? Is this kind of what do you think? What's your insight on that?
We won't go too much into that because that's a whole nother
Yeah,
conversation for another day. But obviously, it's comparing apples to oranges with a first-time manager compared to
right,
someone with the resume that Unai Emery has. We know going into Arsenal, coming off of a stint at PSG.
right.
Like we said, he has prowess in winning big cups, like the Europa League, multiple times in the past. So it's a tough one to call, but at the end of the day, this is why it helps a team like Villarreal and why they've been able to push through to the finals, with the
Right.
talent that they have, with that managerial experience. It's just something that's helped them glue together and push through the tournament.
Yeah.
Now, why don't we look at personnel at Villarreal? And if we look first and foremost at notable absences, only one name on the list, but this one is a huge one. Samuel Chukwueze, the utility midfielder winger, got injured in that second leg against Arsenal. Now,
Yeah.
things are up in the air, but it's optimistic, but it would be a huge boost for them to get Chukwueze back for that final.
Absolutely. Honestly, I think if you have a player that's been tremendous for the team throughout the Europa League for Villarreal, I think if he can get back in the squad, I don't think he's going to be fully fit, but if he can come in for, at least 30 minutes towards the end of the match, it could be beneficial to the team. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge energy boost if he can make that return. But if we look at the players who we know for sure will be appearing, Alex, who would you say two of the biggest key players are for Villarreal to be able to make it through this final?
Honestly, Paco Alcácer is at the top. I mean, he's got 12 goals. He's a key player. If you're in a final, you want players, especially strikers, who can finish. Your top goal scorers, that's who you're looking at to win the match. Obviously, there's times where the midfielders will come in and be clinical, but you're looking for those strikers. And I think the highest scorer is up there. You also have, Moreno too, 12 assists and 29 goals. So he's probably going to be the guy that I'm going to be looking at most during the game, making those runs and getting those clinical goals. But again, you have Paco Alcácer, 12 goals. So you have two strikers who are, putting in, the soccer balls in the net, and that's what counts. So I think those are the two players. And obviously there's another one. I don't know who you else you have in mind.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Gerard Moreno is going to be huge for them on the attack. Their most prolific goal scorer. Again, Paco Alcacer, we know he can finish when needed. But
Yeah.
again, Moreno is playing at such a different level this year. And then if you look at that midfield, something that's going to be key is Villarreal locking up Manchester United's midfield and a
Right.
player that can pocket Bruno Fernandes and ideally shut him down for the whole match would be Daniel Parejo. The attention has to be put on him. A player with his experience, there's going to be a lot of expectations on his shoulders and hopes that
Right.
he can put things on lock.
It's going to be a good battle in the midfield. I mean, Parejo comes from where did he come from? Was it Valencia?
Yeah, he finished at Valencia last season. Like you said, yeah, wealth of experience at
Yeah.
Valencia, bringing that over. to Villarreal, can definitely help that young core around him and hopefully get the job done for Villarreal.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, you want your strikers to be in clinical form in the final, and hopefully that's what's going to happen for Villarreal. And if they can get Parejo really just locking down, like you said, the midfield, it's going to be a good. It's going to be a good fight. I think it's going to be a good match.
No, for sure. Now, if we look across at their competitors, Manchester United finishing off the season second in the Premier League. With their second place finish, Manchester United have guaranteed themselves a spot in the Champions League for next season. But this is going to be a little extra icing on the cake if they can pick up their second Europa League championship. We know in the 2017 Europa League finals, they walked out of that the champions, and that was their only appearance in the competition's finals at this point. Right. Now, Alex, when we look at their path to the Europa League finals, a disappointing start considering that they started the season off in the Champions League.
Right. Honestly, a team like Manchester United, we've heard it over the years now. They've been through a lot of transitions through managers, and expectations are always high. I mean, Manchester United is still the one of the biggest clubs in the world, and you expect them to be competing in the Champions League. And when you see them in the Europa League, honestly, you expect them to win it. And going into it, they're having a good season in the Premier League. Honestly, I didn't expect them to finish second. So it does say that they've brought in some more quality players. As we spoke about, Bruno Fernandes and his link up with Paul Pogba has been great. That midfield is sturdy now, and that's what they've been lacking the last few years. So for the Europa League final, I think I expected them to be in the final. I mean, that's where they should be. But honestly, the fact that they weren't able to keep in fighting in the Champions League is a letdown, and I think they have to go and win this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they started that off, like we said, dropping out of the group stage after some big performances, albeit against RB Leipzig, as well as PSG in their first matchups. But from there, after they dropped down, they had a pretty strong showing on their way to the final, round of 32, thumping Sociedad 4-0. And then in the round of 16, putting up a strong performance against a strong opponent in AC Milan. Absolutely. Coming out of those two legs 2-1.
Yeah. And honestly, I think the most important match that they had when I reflect back on it is the match against AC Milan. Now I say AC Milan, everyone's, well, they haven't been the team that they used to be. Well, during that period, the round of 16, they were in, hot form. They were, I believe they were in the top four, actually maybe even second in Serie A, pushing for first. So the fact that they were able to beat them 2-1 says a lot. And I think that was a key moment for me, saying, okay, you know what, they could carry on through to the quarters, to the semis, and now in the final.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, AC Milan at that point was on hot form, and like you said, regardless of where they do end up, there's a chance that they drop out of a Champions League place going into next season. But nonetheless, this has been a huge season for them where things have been clicking and they've gone back on the track that they'd like to see themselves in. Nonetheless, Manchester United were able to push through, get past them, and then the quarterfinals coming up against Granada, they made easy work of that with a 4-0 two legs. And then their semifinals, there's a bit of a hiccup, but it wasn't really ever in doubt. Beating Roma 8-5.
Right. Yeah, that to me was a shock. Not just the fact that it was 8-5 on aggregate, but what they were able to do in both legs against Roma, who is a very, very good team. So, that's another impressive result. And they deserve to be in the final. And like you said, they've had a great season. They have a great team. But honestly, they need to be pushing. They're in the Champions League spot for next season, but they need to be competing in the Champions League. That's where they should be as a team like Manchester United. So if it's theirs to lose, it's theirs to lose. We'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Now, if we look at notable absences on that Manchester United side, a huge loss to them. Now, regardless what you want to say about him, regardless how you want to criticize him, and the mistakes he is prone to make, Harry Maguire is by far their most solid defender. and it's looking like they most likely will not have him for this matchup. That's a huge loss for them.
It is. I think any team going into a final, I like to always say the defense can win games, but you do need an attack that's gonna score you the goals. With Harry Maguire, he's had his ups and downs at United, but I think this season he's come a long way. He's fitting that role really well, and their defense has improved drastically. So having him not there, it could cause some defensive scares, I would say, for the back line at Man United.
No, that's for sure. And if you look to the midfield, another huge player that is looking in doubt, but I mean, this is a lot more up in the air and more positive than Maguire, is Fred. He got hard knocked in the matchup, I believe, against Fulham.
Yeah.
Again, like we said, not 100% sure, but he's looking more positive. If he can make that final, that will be a huge boost for that Manchester United midfield.
Yeah, I think Fred's had a pretty decent season. He's been a pretty valuable player for them. I think the last few seasons he was one of those substitutes that would come in and try to get the job done. Wasn't the chemistry didn't feel right, but now I think he's on the right path. So if you can get a player like Fred in and even have him on the bench, uh, I think it's a benefit.
No, for sure, it would be a huge boost. Now, if we look to key players, I think there's two names that stand out by far as two of the biggest key contributors to this club, and that's
Right.
not to take away from a player like Paul Pogba, who we know who can be huge, and the other names of players who have shown up big for Manchester United this season. But you have to look no further than Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford for those two key players.
Yeah, they've been pretty remarkable, and I think the standout player is Bruno Fernandes. 28 goals, 18 assists. I mean that is what United have been missing for years now. You know, when they brought in Paul Pogba, they expected him to pull those numbers. And honestly, I don't know where they were expecting that because at Juventus he wasn't pulling those numbers. Yeah, he scored spectacular goals, but he wasn't scoring 28 goals a season, 18 assists. And I think now that's taken a lot of weight off of Paul Pogba and now he's able to play a little better and it's giving Bruno Fernandes the spotlight and I think he really does shine. He likes the pressure. He performs well. Yes, there's been debate if he's a big game player, but I think in the Premier League he's been stepping up. Yeah, there's the penalties, but you know what? He's not been missing them, and he's stepping up and he's doing the job. And then is of course Marcus Rashford. I mean, he's been a standout player for the last few years for United, coming through the ranks of the academy, and it really is in and out clinical finisher for the team. So it's amazing to have a player like that in the final, and obviously you want them on your team.
No, exactly. Yeah, and to your point about Paul Pogba, like you said, not to take anything away from Paul Pogba, the star player, but I feel like even at Juventus, Paul Pogba was always a player who is. I feel like his player profile is a star player that can only be a star player when he's playing alongside players who push him to be better, who are better
Right.
than him. If he's that focal point, which has been something that he's been missing at Manchester United for the last couple of seasons, he doesn't play as
Yep.
well as when he plays along a player like Pirlo at Juventus, or in
Right.
this case, Bruno Fernandes, right? So,
Right.
like you said, I think that's something that will unlock and bring out the best of Pogba. But at the end of the day, it's going to be on Bruno Fernandes to be able to unlock that strong Villarreal defense and midfield and to be able to create chances for the attackers, for players like Marcus Rashford, who we know will be clinical once they get on the ball.
Right. I think it's going to be an interesting match tactically, but I think more importantly, it's going to be like we said, those key spotlight players. They're the players that are scoring goals and the players that are making everything happen with the assists. I think some players to mention is Paul Pogba, who let's see what he does. He's been scoring goals now. He's been, like I said, that pressure is off his shoulder, and I think he might come up and potentially get a winner here for United. I think he's going to be an unlikely goal scorer, but we'll see what happens. I have a feeling he will score, and yeah, I think United will be winning this. If they don't win it, it will be a huge letdown. Villarreal have everything to go for it, so it's going to make for a good match.
Exactly. Like you said, Manchester United are the club that have everything to lose in this matchup. Alex, you said that you think it's Manchester United's game to win. What's your prediction for the final scoreline?
I honestly, with a goal scorer like Moreno on Villarreal with 29 goals this season and 12 assists, I expect Villarreal to come out there and at least put a goal in the net. But I believe it's going to be a 2-1 victory for Manchester United.
I think, like we said over and over, it is really Manchester United's match to lose. However, I am gonna give Unai Emery his wealth of experience, as well as the strength, the gelling of that Villarreal side. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt, and I think that they're gonna be able to do enough to get past Manchester United. By no means do I think that it's gonna be a flashy victory, but I can see them coming out of this match, the 2021 Europa League champions, by a scoreline of 2-1. Look, and like you said, we've been saying it's their time to show it, their match to lose. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it's his first chance to pick up silverware with Manchester United as the manager. This is going to be make or break, honestly, in my opinion, for him and his future at the club. Because if he doesn't come out of this with the Europa League, with the Europa League championship, it's going to really put a lot more doubt into the mind of the Manchester United supporters, who are already so wishy-washy on whether to jump on the Ole train or to try and push him out.
This for them, it's a test, yes, to win the Europa League with Oli, but they're looking to the Champions League. Next year, they're in the Champions League. If they can't win the Europa League against, all respect to Villarreal, but if they can't come out and win this match, there's going to be a lot of questions on how they're going to carry on in the Champions League. And yes, they're going to bolster up their squad. I'm sure they're going to hit the transfer market and improve like any big club will do. But it will cause some pressure, and I think maybe Ole might be thinking, hey, if we can't win this, will I be here next season? So
not exactly, but we're gonna have to all tune in to check this out. This is gonna be a huge matchup. Thank you so very much, Alex, for joining us today, and thanks again for joining us in advance for our next episode, which will be coming out this Friday, previewing the Champions League final. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and go check out Alex's channel. We'll link it in the description. Go say hi, and remember, meat first, soccer second. Have a good one, everybody.
See you, everyone. Thank you again. A pleasure.